Margaret Gioncorla. I was sitting down there, and I suppose there's so many things that could be said, and I was sitting down trying to think where to begin, and I suppose I clarified my thinking. I thought there is only one place to begin, and that is that arson is wrong. Arson is wrong. Criminal damage is wrong. Attacks on property are wrong, and potentially putting people at risk of serious injury and death is wrong. There is no excuse for it. There is no justification for it, and it is clearly becoming a tactic and a strategy of people who are nasty actors, who are trying to unilaterally take decisions about where should and where shouldn't be used to accommodate people. And lots can be said and will be said and is being said in terms of the approach that should be taken, but it can never justify what is happening. It is concerning that this is clearly a pattern that is repeating. And I think that does raise the question of whether enough is being done in terms of security in terms of these incidents. Unfortunately, at the minute, in most of these instances, there hasn't been any, I suppose we're not at the stage of prosecutions yet. I hope that the Gardaí, I'm sure they are working as hard as they can to pursue the people who are responsible for this. Because, you know, I would be very concerned, and I know this concern has been expressed by others. There is undoubtedly the potential that somebody could be very badly hurt or could be killed in one of these incidents. And the people who undertake these actions must know that they are taking enormous risks with people's welfare and their lives. You know, the context of this obviously is in the context of immigration, and I'm not somebody on migration, and you know, sometimes the two get conflated and there are differences. In the minds of most people, I suppose they are part of a lot of the same discussion. And you know, like I often think in terms of, you know, trying to imagine where people are at. I imagine a public meeting with 100 people there, and there might be 10 who are entirely comfortable in it, 10 who and at ease, and 10 who would be vociferously angry and to the point potentially of being violent and aggressive, and then probably an awful lot of people in the middle of those. There are undoubtedly ways of raising concerns into these issues. I recognise that people do have concerns, and I think it is important that Irish politics doesn't repeat the mistakes that have been made elsewhere of discarding entirely people who have such reservations as, you know, the language of deplorables and things like that. You know, people are entitled to have their views and they're entitled to express them. And many people have expressed concerns such as that to me in respectful ways that I can comprehend. I mightn't agree with every part of them, but I can comprehend and I can listen to them. And some people have made appointments to see me in my clinic. Some people have made phone calls with me. Some people raised it at the door. And I think that there should be a place in our democracy for people to express concerns in such ways as that. And I listened to Deputy Reardon's contribution and parts that I agreed with, but I think it is important in this debate. We are talking about the arson attacks, but it is important that we may take the opportunity to distinguish that there are legitimate ways of expressing concern. There are legitimate ways, and I've given some examples there, and there are others. And indeed, perhaps there are forms of protest as well that are legitimate, even if I might disagree with the policy objectives that such protests would have. What is not legitimate is burning buildings down. What is not legitimate is barracking women and children as they enter an accommodation place. What is not legitimate is putting people at risk of serious harm. There is absolutely no space, no scope for that whatsoever. I do believe that there have been mistakes made in terms of communication. I am astonished. I mentioned directly to Minister Gorman the need to tackle this issue of misinformation, because unfortunately, you know, as I say, people have concerns. Some of them are legitimate, some of them are not legitimate, but some of them are based on fiction. Some of them are based on things that aren't even real. And the fact that it's taken so long for the government to get to grips with that and to try and tackle that misinformation is a source of huge concern. I think that the communication with communities has at times been poor. I think that the policy approach in terms of renting private accommodation is, if it was ever viable, has clearly run its course, and a different approach is needed. And I think, you know, we do need a system that is rules-based, that is fair, that is decent, but is consistent as well, and that there is confidence in its working. But whatever, and I think much is the same as that imaginary public meeting I spoke of there with the 100 people. There is a diversity of views here as well, but that can never justify a tax on property, putting people's lives and their welfare, which is much more important than property, at risk. And just briefly, I will take the opportunity. That applies right across the political spectrum, and I understand Deputy Carol Knowles' constituency office was damaged over the weekend. That is unacceptable also, no matter what perspective you're from. People's political representatives shouldn't be at risk of that, and there is no justification for attacks and the arson that is happening here, and I hope those people are brought to justice.